Have you guys ever heard of the band Disturbed? It's like this embarrassing new metal band from like the early 2000s. And they have songs that are like basically row row fight the power, but in like a grovelly voice. What is even like the quintessential Disturbed song? I'm trying to think. Like, if you want to talk like an edgy, horrible but memorable band in the same sort of vein from that era, the first thing that came to mind for me was fucking Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. And I thought that was a Disturbed song, but it's not. It's a Drowning Pool. I can't differentiate between these bands at all. I honestly don't know the difference. To me, they're all the same. Drowning Pool is Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. Disturbed is Down with the Sickness.
I'm consuming.
Two equally horrible songs, like equally as like needlessly and like childishly edgy, but one clearly more memorable and better than the other. So they're not even like the best at that. But basically, Disturbed was like a band that would like sing vaguely sort of anti-system sounding songs in a new metal fashion while being vaguely political but not explicitly political. And like they never really been on my radar as like a sort of politically charged entertainment. Honestly, like when I say that like vaguely politically, I mean like the songs are like designed to sound sort of rebellious, but they aren't. They're not really about anything specific, nor do the integrants of the band really say anything specific about anything ever until now. Like fucking Sum 41 is more explicitly political than Disturbed, and that's saying a lot because Sum 41 is like, oh man, isn't war bad? But at least they like mention the war that they're talking about specifically, like Iraq. Disturbed is more like in general, war bad, just sort of in general, all war is bad. That sort of thing, okay? Just so you guys understand my opinion of them. Like neutered, unspecific, designed to sell records, nothing else. And the lead singer of this band is David Draiman, the weird guy who's bald and he has too many weird piercings. You think that's an exaggeration, but this is what he fucking looks like. He has a fucking chin piercing, okay? So that was not an exaggeration at all. Bet you thought I was exaggerating. Nope, I was not. And I never knew this, but apparently he's like a Zionist. And he just showed up in Israel signing bombs that are going to be dropped on children. So, that's very interesting, isn't it? When I saw this news, I looked further into like who he is. And like if you look at his social media, since October 7th, it is just all Israeli genocide propaganda. I'm not logged in, so like maybe he has a Twitter. Oh yeah, you can tell. Israeli flag, like the genocide propaganda hostage emoji they all use. Nothing but retweets of Israeli genocide propaganda. Literally, he's posting videos of like, look at what these fucking Hamas barbarians did on October 7th. Don't you support the genocide now? Nothing but pro-Israel genocide propaganda. Jesus. Peace symbol while signing bombs. Yeah. Peace symbol username, signing fucking bombs. Unreal, but he is real. You know what this got me thinking? Because apparently he's Jewish, which I never knew, but got me thinking, like, you have like the flip side of like this guy, like the complete opposite of a person, like Serge Tankian of System of a Down. I didn't say that correctly because I can't speak. And like he's like good on most stuff as far as I know. And also musically the complete opposite, like actual like decent music that actually has something more specific to say about stuff rather than just sort of being vaguely politically sounding in order to sell records, even though it's really just completely apolitical and childish, like generic childish rebellion sounding shit. But I was like thinking about like Serge Tankian and the fact that he is like Armenian, thus he sort of got into like more being on the right side of things just by coincidence, just by the fact that, you know, the Armenian cause against like Turkey and Azerbaijan happens to sort of put him onto that side of the aisle. Or maybe I'm being very cynical, but that's what I was thinking here is like two people here, one of them just a vile pro-genocide propagandist and the other one who is basically on the right side of every single important issue, including Palestine. And I honestly think they only got there out of self-interest. I honestly think that their understanding of the world that got them to where they are today was little more than, you know, David Draiman's like, I am Jewish, people in Israel are Jewish, colonizing Palestine is good for the Jewish people in Israel, hence, I support the colonization of Palestine. And Serge Tankian on the other side was like, I am Armenian people are oppressed, I support Armenia. Ergo, I support all the sort of causes that are interconnected with that. It might be very cynical, but I honestly feel like most people are just completely self-interested. Most people only get to where they are by coincidence, by happenstance, by self-interest. But for the world to have any sort of hope, of not being a shithole, people have to like arrive at a position that might even go against their own self-interest, but that is nonetheless correct and right, and that benefits people other than themselves, perhaps even at the cost of their own personal comfort. And these two guys, the fact they are complete opposites politically, one of them is a massive piece of shit, one of them is largely correct about a lot of important things, are, in my opinion, a very good example of that, basically. Like, you can't just rely on people just getting to where they are by accident. You can't just hope that they happen to be on the right side of an issue just because they got there by rank self-interest. And a lot of American first world Marxists are basically in denial about this because they're like, first world workers share interests with the third world workers, actually. No, they don't. They don't, actually. First world workers living in like a fascist state that was relatively prosperous for them at the cost of like third world slaves, they'd be perfectly happy with that. So you might want to rethink your approach a bit there and deal with the reality that these two groups of people have totally different interests, and you can't simply rely on appealing to their self-interest to get them to support the interests of the workers of the third world. It's not going to happen. You need to advocate for things beyond that, like not being shitty people, for actually being remotely compassionate and caring about others. Basically, you need to have actual principles rather than just sort of hoping that things change on their own out of appealing to like this notion that what's good for everyone is also best for you. Because while that may be true in like an incredibly long-term, largely fantastical scenario, right now, it's not. Right now, these two interest groups have largely opposed interests, and you can't simply rely on saying to like first world workers, like comfortable first world unionized workers doing pretty well, hey, you know, you actually have the same interests as the Congolese slot miner who funds your life, because they don't. Anyway, that is sort of barely related, but nonetheless somewhat related to David Draiman being a massive fascist who signed his name onto a bomb that's going to be dropped on children. Don't think that you're better than him for any reason aside from luck, because chances are you're probably not. And if there's one thing that we need to change about the world, it's getting to people before they turn out like him and getting them to care about things aside from what they perceive as their own self-interest and that of what they perceive as their own in-group. How can that be done? That's the way forward. It's not just like what Marxists do, which is basically understanding of reality where every single worker in the world has the same interests, when a sad fact is that a lot of workers, not even remotely a majority, but a lot nonetheless, like maybe 10, 20%, and a very powerful group of workers as well, given that they're in the first world, have their interests tied to the continued status quo that oppresses the vast majority of workers in the third world. How do you get to those people and convince them that, hey, perhaps having like relative comfort built on the massive oppression of billions of people isn't good and you should oppose that? And the only way that we could ever get to anything better that might actually benefit you as well is by first opposing that now. No, you don't have the same enemies. You are their enemy. That's what you don't get. You are the enemy of the third world. The first world worker is the enemy of the third world worker until the first world worker proves that they are not. And they don't do that yet. It's on them to do so. I'm just talking about you. You're the enemy. Class war is war against the first world working class. And I'm trying to save them here by telling you that the only way that they can be saved is if they figure out sooner rather than later that they have to care about other people rather than just themselves. Because only by doing so, only by figuring that out, are they going to possibly end up on the right side when the global climate change water conflict begins. Tomorrow, it's beginning, by the way. Just giving you guys a bit of a preview, a bit of exclusive insider information. So get ready for that. You've got about 5 or 6 hours. So, just pack a bag, get some cans together. I recommend chickpeas.